We are in a recession. Well, at least the old definition of recession. Today, quarter over quarter GDP numbers were announced, and last quarter they came out negative. They again came out negative this quarter. That is two declining GDP reports in a row, which used to be the definition of a recession. That's how we used to define whether or not the American economy was in a recession. But it happened during COVID. Here, I'll pull the chart over. We also had two negative GDPs during COVID, and we didn't want to cause panic during that. So the definition of recession was changed, and now it gets to be decided on by the National Bureau of Economic Research, gets to decide, and I think the Fed works with them too, gets to decide whether or not we are in a recession, which is a little wild to me, but we're going to look through some of the numbers that they're looking at, and I want to get your all's opinion. What do you all think? Are we in a recession? How's the American economy doing? And we're going to look through, once again, some of the numbers and kind of see for ourselves how the economy is really doing as we battle inflation, job growth, unemployment numbers, all this kind of stuff. So hit like if you're excited. Hit the red subscribe button if you want to learn more about the stock market, and let's just jump into it. So, everyone who cares knows that recessions happen when there are two consecutive quarters of negative growth. That's what I just talked about. We had two consecutive quarters of negative GDP. That is the old definition. Now, except for the people that actually decide when the economy is in a recession, the NBER, the National Bureau of Economic Research, it defines it as a significant decline in economic activity that is spread across the economy and last more than a few months. So they have not yet determined, along with the Fed, that we are in that significant decline in economic activity. Yes, we've dropped two GDPs in a row. Let's scroll down a little bit more. The case for a recession, the case against, this says the NBER be laughing stocks. They said we were in a recession. We created 400,000 jobs last month. So that's the kind of numbers they're looking at. They're looking at jobs created. They're looking at unemployment. They're looking at wages versus inflation, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at it for ourselves. The wages, so this chart is United States wages and salaries growth. Wages have gone up. This is COVID. Obviously, we dropped during the midst of COVID. This is March 2020. Coming out of that was one of the biggest, I don't think it's one of, I think it is the biggest jobs booms of all time, because a lot of people lost jobs during COVID, and we were paying a lot of people unemployment. A lot of people started getting unemployment checks during COVID too. So it was hard to get a lot of people to come back to work. So there was a ton of jobs available, and it was hard to get people to want to work. So the wages and salaries grew a lot. You know, this year, 2021, just the first couple of months of it, we're up 15%. On salary growth, which is crazy. And as you all know, probably know by now, this is inflation. Inflation is now at 9%. So I think you're thinking like, okay, well, great. Salaries are up 10%. Inflation's up 9%. My issue with these two charts, and what I kind of want your all's opinion on, obviously, as we go through this, let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's kind of the whole point of this, is to start a discussion. But you can see that obviously wages and salaries grew really strong in early 2021. And then they've kind of flattened out, right? Like they were up 15%. They're still up 10%. That's great. But inflation didn't start going up like until 2021, and it's still going up now. I mean, it's actually started going up harder since 2022 started. Wages have not tracked that move. You know what I mean? Yes, they're up from where they were previously, but they're not like tracking up with now rising inflation, which I think is very interesting. So once again, let me know your thoughts on that. And does that mean, we're really in a strong job market? Does that mean we're paying the right kind of salaries, and that people are willing to come to work? The economy is going to be strong because people are still getting paid and can afford to buy. It's another thing they're looking at is consumer spending. I don't know if I have that chart open. If I don't, I will show that to you. I do. Consumer spending is another strong component of how strong the economy is, right? It's, can people still afford to buy things? And that comes from this inflation versus wages, right? So let me know your thoughts on that below. Now, if we look at the unemployment numbers, or this is the employment rate. So once again, during COVID, a lot of people lost jobs. We went through a huge job boom. And this is what A lot of people I hear saying right now is, no, we're not in a recession. The jobs are still growing. Jobs are growing. Yes, but look at how hard they fell, right? We were at 62 or 61, call it, percent employment rate. We dropped down to nearly 50 or like 51%. So yes, we're getting back up towards pre-COVID numbers, but we're not even there yet. We're not even at pre-COVID numbers yet. So I don't think it's safe to say that the employment rate or the jobs are really booming. Right, we've just recovered from where we were. Nice, but we're still not even. Once again, we're still not even up to the 61% employed. I personally don't feel like it's fair to say this is some kind of strong, booming, everybody's got jobs, everybody's getting hired market. The politicians, and you guys know politics. I'm not going to get into politics, but they love to try to make people feel good. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening with this "we're not in a recession yet" talk. It's like, yes, we created the most jobs ever last year. Cool. That doesn't matter. All you did was recover from the year before when we lost the most jobs ever. Like it doesn't matter. Now, this is a really interesting chart I want to look at too. This is consumer spending, right? And yes, it's going up, which is a good sign for the economy. Once again, consumer spending going up. It's good to get people spending money. That's obviously good for companies' bottom lines, which is good for the economy, right? But let's do a little bit of deeper diving into this too. This is once again another one of those things. Consumer spending has recovered the greatest it ever has. Yes, once again, we've just recovered from what we sold off during COVID. But at least consumer spending, unlike the employment rate, is back above pre-COVID highs, right? So that looks good, right? Now, if I go back to the inflation chart, you could see that inflation didn't really start taking off. Actually, in 2020, inflation was near zero. So inflation really wasn't a factor in 2020, and now it's up to 9%. So if we look here in 2020, say the average spending was around $13,000. This was consumer spending. Now, if you add the 9%, now we're in a 9% higher inflation. Have we tracked with that? Has the average spending kept up or outperformed the inflation? Because that's what matters. If not, then consumer spending isn't actually up at all. So I did a Google calculator. 13,000 plus 9% is 14,170. We are not above 14,000 on this chart. This is obviously, I'm saying 1,000 just because that's the number, but this is 14 billion, if that wasn't obvious enough. But we're not above that number. We are not tracking with the 9%. Inflation's increased 9% since 2020. The spending has increased from about 13,000 to less than 14,000, which is not tracking. So it's actually, not, consumer spending is not up. It's not outperforming inflation. So that's another another buzzword that consumer spending is up, employment is up, inflation is getting under control with rising interest rates, and then salaries are up. But all of those can, in some sort of ways, I feel like, be disputed, be argued against. Are they really up? Are we outperforming inflation? Does the salary growth keep up with current inflation growth? Is consumer spending more than the inflation? Are the job numbers being up from where they were at lows, but not even back to pre-COVID highs? Is that really some kind of job boom? All of this kind of stuff can be disputed. And once again, it all stems from here where we have our back-to-back GDP growths in the negative, which once again is the old definition of a recession. So we are in a recession, except that now people have to tell us whether or not we're in a recession, which I find a little ridiculous, but I want to get your all's thoughts on all this. That's why I'm putting this video out there. So please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, you maybe enjoy more types of videos like this where we cover the economy, the markets, the overall kind of macro trend of the market, not just the intraday day trading stuff. Hit the like button. It's the easiest way to show me that. And if you're new around here, if you made it this far, you must like listening to my voice a little bit. So why not subscribe? With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign out of this video. I will catch you all in the next one.